Hello. Thank you for joining us for our happy hour webinar today. We have attendees from across our region and beyond, so I want to welcome you all to this great hour that we get to spend together. I'm so glad that we have this opportunity to gather together from our various homes and in various states of attire. It's been a long week, so hopefully you are relaxing in your sweatpants. My name is Claire Nold-Glaser, and I am the current president of PNACAC. Last week, when we had to make the unfortunate decision to cancel the PNACAC annual conference, I knew our professional development offerings could not cease. We've been having discussions about offering PNACAC webinars and ask that you stay tuned for more news on that front. I want to publicly thank our PNACAC Technology Chair, Erin Jensen, for the incredible amount of work she has put in this week to make this webinar a reality. Thank you, Erin. So in my despair of canceling the conference last week, I recognized my own need to learn more effective strategies working from home, as well as revisiting my self-care resources, since the physical locations for my jazzercise, Zumba, and place of worship are currently shuttered. I reached out to Courtney Best, Regional Admission Counselor from Gettysburg College, and David Chehey, College and Career Center Counselor from Boise High School, and asked them if they would be willing to help me put together this webinar. Thankfully, they agreed. We've worked to put together an hour-long session for you outlined on the agenda that you will be viewing on the next slide. Please, there it is, thanks. Please use the Q&A box located at the bottom of your Zoom screen if you have technical issues or questions for the presenters to address later in the session. If we are unable to get to all of the questions, we will reply to you via email. A recording of this webinar will be sent to you after and will also be available on the PNACAC YouTube channel as linked in the chat box. Thanks so much again for attending, and I'm happy to now turn the webinar over to Courtney.
Hello, hello, and greetings from Courtney Best from the West. I was so excited when Claire asked me to be a part of this because it allowed me to reflect that only 5 years ago, I had spent 14 years on Gettysburg's campus, and I had no clue what this regional or remote working thing was about. And 5 years ago, I had a lot of questions. Luckily, I was not the first person to do this. So I reached out to the experts, the ones, a lot of the regionals that I knew had been in the field for a number of years. And Anna from Redlands, she has always been my mentor, but she still gets all of my questions I have today. So if you have a lot of questions and you're kind of going through this transition phase into remote working, that is okay. We've all been there. And you have a lot of people and a lot of resources out there to get some of your questions answered. So what I hope to do over the next couple of slides is just outline some of the basic things that you need to really work effectively and efficiently from home. And also just how to navigate that daily schedule. Some of us have already started to experience what a week and a half of this is like, and it might change based on whether it's sunny outside or if it's rainy and you have to stay in all day. So for my next slide, we're going to kick it off with just some of your basic needs. Now, Wi-Fi and internet. This is something that we have come to rely on and depend on. For some of the families that you're working with, they might not have internet or Wi-Fi, and there are companies like Comcast that are offering free Wi-Fi for 2 months, and we're really seeing a lot of companies stepping up during this time. But for you, to get your work done as a counselor, as a regional counselor, as an independent counselor, we really want to make sure that you have, a strong connection at home. And if you don't, this is something you should be asking your institutions, your district for, so you can stay connected. We all need to have a computer, and I've included here a little speed test because it's a little different when you're just one person working from home than if you have a partner or a couple children also sharing that same internet connection. So I really encourage you to use this speed test to see how fast and how quickly or how slow you can upload and download. For just reaching out and calling someone, this is something I've been in a lot of Zoom meetings, a lot of virtual meetings, but I still really enjoy getting a call. I am someone that I have always used my personal cell phone for work as well, and I feel comfortable using that and sending that out. But I have some colleagues that really don't want families to have their personal cell phone, and I can understand why. So this is a nice little tip. If you want to have an unknown number come up, just dial *67 before you dial the number. It is always important to have your cell phone with you, but please remember, if you use the restroom, do not bring the cell phone with you. It's always good to have a desk or a table, and preferably in a quiet space. I have a colleague who has 3 kids and they're all at home. And so she actually put a table in her bedroom so she knew she could close the door and not have any distractions. You can try working on your lap, but it's often hard to juggle that while writing or typing. So I really encourage you to have a desk or a table, and preferably in a quiet area. A lot of people chimed in with their tips and said a comfy chair is a necessity. The couch is, or the bed is not a chair. They're comfy, but for your posture and just overall well-being as you're working for 7 to 8 hours sitting in front of a computer, it's better to have a desk and a chair. Healthy snacks. Now more than ever, it's important to have healthy snacks and can drink lots of water. It really does impact the way we feel, our mood and our energy. I have a colleague that sets an alarm, and every 60 minutes, she gets up, she walks around, she gets a glass of water, and she likes to have fruits and nuts on hand just so she can grab something healthy. And most importantly, for your basic needs, asking questions. I said this before, but I really want to reiterate this, as everyone should just kind of throw their ego out the window, because we are all at this new place and we're all going to have a lot of different questions. We're working with new platforms. David shared a list that, you know, Google Hangouts, Skype for Business, Zoom, GoToMeeting, UpDocs, VC, Doxy.me, Google G Suite, Adobe Connect, and then other things that a lot of colleges are using as well, Slack, Calendly, Slate. So if you have never used some of these, it's okay to ask questions and reach out to others that you know who have had experience with this. Another important question to ask is, what is your district using? What is your school using? I know for Gettysburg, we're really relying on Slate and Zoom for most of our meetings, but I had a student that I'm meeting with next week, and she feels more comfortable with Google Hangout. So we're going to do our meeting in Google Hangout. So this is also a time to really meet our students where they are. So what do they use? What are they used to? If you feel comfortable using that, it's a great way to incorporate that. And I have been on a lot of Zoom meetings the last few days, and I kind of feel like this. So I don't know if some of you have seen this image going around, but it always makes me laugh, because whenever I'm having a meeting with my staff, it could be 6 a.m. for me, but 9 a.m. on the East Coast. And I try and look like the second picture, but I feel like I often look like the first picture. So in order to make yourself feel a little bit more present, I'm going to give you some tips in this daily schedule, just to make yourself presentable for those Zoom meetings where people do have to see your face. You don't get to see me now, but I did shower and put on clothes for you, and I'm actually wearing earrings and makeup. So I did that for you guys because I feel like I'm presenting. So for your daily schedule, this was something I think a lot of people commented on, was keeping a regular schedule and finding time to move. Those are really, really key. It's hard to sit at a desk and sit in front of a computer for 8 hours and not get tired. I have been sleeping a lot these last few days just because even as a regional, I was up and about and traveling, but now I'm really just staying put. So it's a little different, but try and get your 7 to 8 hours of sleep. We had some professors on campus say that, oh, it's a lot of college students and high school students are sleep deprived. It's going to be amazing to see if they do get 7 or 8 hours of sleep, what they can really do every day. But for the same thing for us, if you can get your 7 to 8 hours of sleep, keep your normal work schedule. Try and remember to keep those evening routines, even if you can't physically see people. Give a friend or a family member a call. I've been doing a lot more FaceTime calls instead of just picking up the phone because I want to see people, and just try and go to bed at a decent hour. Getting up and showering and brushing your teeth and actually changing out of your pajamas. I am wearing my slippers. Those don't come off my feet all day, but it just really makes you feel more presentable and more professional as you enter your day. If it's nice out, open the window. I don't know about you guys, but last week it was in the 60s here. I had the window open. I was going out for walks every day. This week my window's been cold it's been cold outside, so I've had the window down and the heat on. Another big thing is just making a daily schedule. I know some of us love these and we get thrills out of checking things off, and others, you've never been a list person or a schedule person, but now is the best time to do this, to really look at the day ahead. What do you need to accomplish? And schedule things out for each hour so you can tick that off. Make sure you schedule time to have a break, at least an hour for lunch. Try and eat normal meals. Don't just snack all day. And especially if you have kids, sit down with them if they're old enough to sit down and make their own schedule, and make sure that they have breaks. And sometimes this includes some outdoor play. It will be good for yourself and everyone in the family. I said this before, but I think that human contact is, again, so important. This is something as a regional that I try and do in my regular life every day, is to either reach out to a friend or a coworker so they know that I'm still here and doing okay. But it's really, really good for my health as too, my health. And your boss or your supervisor, some of them might have meetings set up. If not, I really encourage you to reach out to them and say, hey, do you mind if we set up a weekly check-in? I just want to be connected to you and let you know what's going on in my world. And that's a great time to ask your questions. If you have questions about the work you're doing, how things are changing, and how you can prepare for weeks to come. Getting up and moving, that's another thing. Our bodies, just as when you're driving, you should not drive for more than 2 hours without moving. You should not sit in front of your screen at your desk for more than 2 hours without getting up and stretching. I have done a lot of yoga. I have some great online apps that I put on my phone. I really love Yoga with Adriene, and I love Betty Rocker. She's all about the high intensity workouts. And I also have something called the Insight Timer, and this is great if you want to look into some meditations or things like that. But it is important to get up. Someone suggested having a standing desk. If you do not have this at home, it's easy to take a box or a crate and turn that into a standing desk where you don't have to sit all day. I actually have a Vera desk and I use it. I try every couple hours to stand up or sit down. The other thing are eyeballs. Our eyeballs get tired looking at a screen all day. So a colleague of mine actually taught me every hour or so to actually look out a window and focus on something 50 feet away and let your eyes really adjust to that, because looking at something within 2 feet and staring at a screen can really affect your eye health, and your eyes can get tired or you can get a headache. I did try the blue screen glasses this year, and I can say they do help. So if you are getting headaches or your eyes are getting tired, you might want to try that, and you can find those online, or if you dare go out in some of the big box stores like a Target or a Walmart or something like that. And this has been going around on social media, and I think it's just so important, especially for me. I printed it out and I have it right by my computer. Um, we are living in a different time. So those of us, those independent counselors, those regional counselors, we've been working from home before, but this is a very different time than feeling this quarantine or the need to stay at home. So I think we really need to have this shift. And a part of our daily task should be asking some of these questions. What are we grateful for? Um, we should check in with ourselves. We should check in with other people. We have to let go of what we used to know as our normal day to day, because every day is something new. Again, getting outside, getting some vitamin D or just fresh air is so good for you. And reiterating that, get your body moving. So whatever you like to do, whether it's go for a walk, stretch, if you really like an intense workout, it's harder to do those at home, but you can find what's going to match up with your schedule. And just always remember, there's so much beauty in the world, and we can either create this internally, or we can just kind of look out the window at kids playing outside and just take a moment to appreciate that, and that we are alive and healthy and well. So just try and remember some of these daily questions as well. And now I'm going to turn it over to Claire.
Thanks, Courtney. That was great, great, great tips and tidbits. And yeah, thank you very much. So I work as an independent educational consultant, and I do have an office where I primarily, see my students. And prior to being quarantined at home, I had only done virtual meetings with my students when it was snowy outside. And so it was kind of fun because we would talk about the weather and how beautiful it was outside. And so it's definitely a shift as well, working from my dining room table. One of the things that I am working on since I've been home is really focusing on that mantra of one day at a time. So what I know today, I've listed some things here. I think we know how responsible or how important it is for us to be working on understanding the facts that are contributing to our situation. I've been talking with students and parents about standardized testing, about whether or not they're going to graduate from high school. And the best that I can do is give them the facts as I know them. And I think it's an opportunity to be honest and acknowledge, that we're all in this together, but that I have great hope for where we're going to be when we're through this time of quarantine. I read an article earlier today that was put out by Jed Appleruth, and many of you may be familiar with Jed, and his company does test prep tutoring. And Jed specifically has done a lot of research around adolescence and anxiety and depression. And if you have a chance to go to his website and read the piece that he put out today, I think it's like What Jed Knows or something like that. But it was talking about what Courtney touched on earlier of, what is it going to be like for kids to have more downtime instead of their frantic pace that they have, and getting more rest and spending more time with their families. The tone of the article was much more hopeful, and I really appreciated that. I know that it's important when I'm talking with my students to meet them where they're at right now. Some of them want to talk about the worries and anxieties that they're having. And other students I find want to just, let's get down to our work and let me tell you about my college research that I've done, or, whatever the topic is that is at hand. But I'm really allowing for extra time and space to be able to connect with them, both the students that I have meetings scheduled with, and then I'm obviously my caseload is much smaller than a public school counselor, but I'm working on checking in with all of my students via text messaging, that kind of thing. One of the things that I'm working on myself is limiting my time on social media, because I think that I can get really sucked into that. And sometimes for me, that can kind of induce a feeling of panic, because it's like, oh no, what if this and what if that? And so I'm just really working on limiting my time there. As Courtney said, recognizing that it's okay to ask for help, and just exactly what Courtney talked about of, this is a new experience for all of us, and it's a great opportunity for us to learn from and help each other out. I also know that how I feel right now might be different in an hour. I'll probably feel a lot more relieved in an hour when this is done, to be honest with you. But I know that throughout the day, there may be times where I feel, more despairing or discouraged. And then, an hour from now, I'll be feeling better because I will have spoken with a student or spoken with a colleague. So I'm learning that I need to be really patient with myself and my own emotions and feelings as well. As Courtney mentioned as well, making lists is something that's really helping me, because I find that being here at home, working from my dining room table, my mind really jumps around to different things of, gosh, I need to be, following up with this student, or gosh, there's this PNACAC thing that I need to do, or geez, I need to check in with my own kids, or I want to check in with my 90-year-old dad, and see how he's doing. So having those lists really is helping me stay focused and productive. And then one thing that I've just discovered recently is that I tend to focus better if I have instrumental music playing in the background. And right now my go-to station on Spotify is called Peaceful Guitar. So music is a big part of my life, and it's been nice to find that music without words is helping me focus as well. And then that last point is, we're all in this together, and I think it's just nice when we can connect with each other. And I know, we're all here kind of in virtual land separately, but together right now, but recognizing that we don't have to feel alone. So those are just some basic observations. And now I'd like to turn it over to David.
Okay, well, thank you so much. I really appreciate this opportunity to share a few things, more slight shift in focus back to kind of some self-care items. You'll hear some repetition down the road, but I kind of just, like many of you, was disappointed that we had to cancel our conference, and I had put a kind of a similar type proposal together, and this will be the next best thing. So right off the bat, I wanted to just kind of check in with Team PNACAC, and I see in the participant list lots of old friends and new friends, and a few people even from outside our conference, which is amazing. And so I'm going to try a little poll right now and just kind of check in and see. And so I'm going to launch this poll. I hope that you will be able to see it. And of course, obviously, I want you to answer. They're just yes or no, and certainly wait for the question, the prompt, and then we'll share at the end of the time. So just as kind of a test case, the first one I wanted to just check in. For how many of you, this is actually the end of your legit spring break. Maybe this is your first week. I mean, had you been at spring break, this would have been the first time. I know some of you, this is your second, third week out of school, fourth week, whatever, but was this your original spring break week? And if you can check that as yes or no. I know some of the independents and the CBOs and so forth are like, what's a spring break? Or maybe this is some of your busiest time, but just seeing if this is truly your spring break, for what it's worth. Okay, next up is a question about how many, sorry, and you can go back, I'm gonna keep this there, perfect, thanks so much. So I'm just curious, how many of you are caring for children at home? You know, whether you're also trying to manage all of that kind of thing, and the homeschooling and the teaching feature and everything else. My friend Martha, who I think is on the call from Puget Sound, shared an article, and I thought that was really interesting about how, of course, in times of crisis and pandemics and throughout history, women carry kind of a disproportionate share of the workload in these things and always step up because stereotypically right or wrong, you know, also having to care for children and do the teaching and come up with the lessons, and also perhaps the shopping and the meal planning. I'm hoping that we're a little more progressive these days, but I understand and feel and really empathize and celebrate those of you that also are managing children at home during this time as well. And then question number 3 asks whether you also might be a caregiver for another adult in your house. Might be a parent, might be a grandparent. You know, I don't know if you want to consider that an adult child, but more on that kind of health front. I know that we're all checking in with older relatives, but if any of you are also checking in or having you have your actual parent or other adult in your house, I know how much stress and additional worry and concern that might take for you. Question number 4 talks about oops, I just see something that says host and Pam. Oh, okay, yeah, sorry. How many of you might have a spouse, a partner, roommate, maybe an adult child who's actually working on the front lines as a healthcare worker during this time? Maybe a doctor, a nurse, a med tech, somebody in support, EMT, you name it. And I just wondered if we had some folks participating today that are in that boat where you're living with someone that's in that field. And then item 5 asks about whether you might have a partner, spouse, roommate, adult child who might be out and about in some other essential or service sector capacity, maybe in the grocery store, delivery drivers, mail carrier, the airline business, police, firefighter, all those extra jobs that we used to kind of take for granted are just so important as well to make things work during these times. And then question 6, maybe if anybody has a spouse, a partner, a roommate, an adult child who's actually lost employment at this point, really been furloughed, really laid off, or just kind of hopefully for a temporary stint. Those are obviously, again, stressful, difficult, economic kind of concerns that might be, you know, really directly in your own household, and maybe it's even you if you've been kind of furloughed, or this is part of this whole kind of restructuring. And then very last, I was just curious, and I hesitate to ask the question, but I did want to know, perhaps among our group here, if anybody is aware of someone who's actually contracted the virus, and whether that's directly impacting your household or not, but certainly a family member, a colleague, a neighbor, you know, people that you might know, just out of curiosity, how that might look on your end. So anyway, I'll just give a couple more chances for people to vote if they would like to, if they are seeing things. I'm seeing things pop in, and getting some good, interesting responses. And then of course I'll share the results with you very shortly. Let's give it another 30 seconds or so, and for those of you that voted, still want to vote. Okay, and I think I'll just wind it down. My screen shows me that 70% of you have voted. It's great. It was just kind of a chance. And this is actually a practice for me as well, since I'll be moving to some Zoom stuff as well. I just want to try out a few features, this being one. So I'll close off the poll in 5. Great. Okay, and then I think you should be able to now kind of see on your screen just a few items that are impacting or of interest to our group that are here this afternoon. Several of you with children at home and working through various other issues with this. So Thank you for participating. I just wanted to give that a little shot, and I'll close the poll on both parts there. And kind of back to the original screen, I'm going to, sorry, you can kind of focus on that mindful with all of this happening. We're going to kind of do a little exercise, if you're willing, and just kind of take a peek, and experience a guided meditation, and see if we can kind of clear a little bit more of our own sense of being. So in times of just about everything, kind of the go-to for some meditation or mindfulness is a gratitude practice. And so what I want to do is see if you're willing and able, and especially since we're not on screen, you can participate to your leisure. But let's just take a couple of seconds, and I'll kind of guide you through a guided meditation. And if you would like to participate. So I would just say, if you're not already there, let's sit upright in a comfortable, stable position where you can feel fully supported and your back, neck, and head are straight. Most likely your feet would be planted flat, firmly on the floor, but perhaps if it's cross-legged or your legs are tucked under you, if that's more comfortable, that's great. Let's go ahead and allow your eyes to gently close or maintain a soft focus, gazing 6 to 12 feet in front of you, off to the side, or perhaps at the screen. Take a slow, deep breath to bring yourself to the present moment and begin the process of feeling more peaceful and centered. Breathe into the belly so it expands as you breathe in and gets smaller as you breathe out. Some of you might be familiar with Ujjayi breathing or breath, where we're inhaling through the nose and also exhaling out through the nose. That just automatically kind of slows our heart rate, keeps us focused and comfortable. But whatever kind of breath work works for you is fantastic. And then I just like to always remind myself, there is nothing else to do. There is nowhere else to be. Now take a minute to mentally scan your body for any areas where there is tightness, tension, or soreness, and breathe your warm, oxygen-filled breath into that area. As you breathe out, let the tension release, breathing it out as well. Now notice any worries, fear, anger, irritation, jealousy, or judgment. Just breathe into those emotions, noting them, and allowing them to flow out as you breathe out. Another breath into any uncomfortable emotions, and then breathing out, releasing them. Now any thoughts of memories, plans, future meetings, lists, anything other than being here, breathing. Just breathe into those thoughts, and as you breathe out, allow the thoughts to flow out with the breath. Another reminder, there is nothing else to do. There is nowhere else to be. Now that our bodies, emotions, and thoughts are a little clearer, a bit more spacious and open, we can begin to focus on the events, experiences, people, pets, or possessions for which we feel grateful. First, recall that if you are listening to this, you already have several marvelous gifts. The gift of life itself, the most precious gift. Someone gave birth to you. Someone fed you as an infant, changed your diaper, clothed you, bathed you, taught you to speak and to understand. The gift of hearing, so you can hear and learn, whether it's a song of a bird, the notes of a band or orchestra, the songs of singing, laughter and voices, the sound of your own breath flowing in and flowing out. The gift of a heartbeat, steady, regular, moment after moment, pumping fresh, life-giving blood to all of your organs. Now think about all the things we have today that make our lives easier and more comfortable than they were for earlier generations. For the majority of us, certainly a privilege. We flip a switch and a light appears. We turn a tap and clean, drinkable water flows. We adjust the thermostat and a room grows warmer or cooler. We have a roof to keep us dry when it rains, walls to keep out the cold wind, windows to let in the light. We enter a vehicle and it takes us where we want to go. We have access to machines that wash our clothes and machines that store our food and help us cook it. We have indoor plumbing. We have public libraries that have thousands of books and other forms of media free for anybody to borrow and read. We have schools and other support systems that can teach us to read and write, pursue knowledge and help prepare for adulthood, facilitated by helpers like you along the entire way. These things were available only to the selective few just not that too long ago. Now take a moment to reflect on all the thousands of other people who have worked hard, some without knowing you at all, to make your life easier or more pleasant. Those who plant, grow, and harvest your food. Those who transport that food to market. The Postal Service and someone who sorts the mail and other packages, people who deliver those goods. Those who design operations and systems for collecting, sorting, and disposing of trash and recycling. Those who gather news stories and photos, and those who create the many platforms by which the news can reach you. Those who maintain the technology so that you can get and send email and text, access the internet, and continue to connect for personal and professional purposes like we are doing right now. All of those who play sports, create art or music, or plays or poems or films to entertain and uplift you. And most of these are people you have never met or barely know. Now consider the people and pets you know who enrich your life, those who smile at you and cheer you on, those family, friends, acquaintances, colleagues, and peers, our students and their families, those ancestors who worked so that you could live well, those friends who support you when you need a shoulder or a hand. Now take a moment to reflect on your own reasons for feeling grateful in this moment. Indeed, despite some challenging circumstances, there is so much to feel grateful for in this moment, including your resilience, your grit, and your ability to react and respond as a helper, particularly in times of crisis or disruption. Gratitude fills our hearts and minds, uplifting our spirit. Notice the feeling of your body and breath in this place, resting quietly, noticing how you feel throughout your body, emotions and thoughts, compared with before you started. No judging, just noticing. Gently stretch your hands and arms, feet and legs, and slowly open your eyes. With practice, you can find yourself feeling grateful easily, wherever you are. Some of you may choose to keep a journal, noting 3 to 5 things each day for which you feel particularly grateful. You can draw on the strength of this gratitude whenever you wish. Thank you for practicing this guided heart-centered meditation to promote a sense of gratitude and calm moving forward. And I just wanted to say, I found the basics of the script. There's so much available online. I put some other things in the resource guide as far as calm apps and meditation apps. And if you just Google and YouTube and all sorts of stuff. And then I just kind of customized a little, this originally came from a professor at Berkeley, kind of a nice gratitude meditation. So there's, of course, meditations for sleep and for, generosity and for other kind of things, anxiety and so forth. But just wanted to give us a little chance to kind of take a time out, so to speak. Okay, and will you progress? The next couple things I'm going to show you are just various things that I've collected. I absolutely love this piece about control and what we can and can't control. So it says, what I can let go of, I can't control, so I can let go of these things. If other people follow the rules of social distancing, the actions of others, predicting what will happen, other people's motives, how others react, how long this will last, and the amount of toilet paper at the store. However, I can control, so I will focus on these things. My positive attitude, how I follow CDC recommendations, my own social distancing, turning off the news, limiting my social media, finding fun things to do at home, and my own kindness and grace. Next. So just a real quick thing, I just kind of saw a great term instead of calling it social distancing, because we still want to keep in touch with people. How about distant socializing, or longer physical distancing and social solidarity? You can see our friends down there in the corner. I would have to say that one of the things I have kind of valued are just all the creative, sometimes inappropriate, but really funny memes and stories and things that people are posting. And I think when all else fails, humor and kind of collective creativity and so forth can really help us out a lot. Next. Okay, so on there, and you can read this, and especially when you get it on your own, just kind of 5 dimensions of self-care, some physical stuff. These are things that we've already kind of covered a little bit more. As far as your kind of fitness and sleep habits, how you manage your stress, dental, medical checkups, sexual health. Some of those are tricky these days, but and then kind of your intellectual growth, the fact that you even signed up for this webinar. I know I've been looking for interesting opportunities for professional growth, and that includes your NACAC journals and all the conferences and things that we're constantly learning about, updates with financial aid and that kind of stuff, but also just for our own non-work related intellectual growth. Kind of your social welfare, having a support network and people you can talk to, again, to cultivate that sense of belonging and acceptance. And then your spiritual growth, what that means for you. Of course, it could be church or formalized religion, but obviously there's much more out there, how you might choose to connect and just kind of nourish your soul and seek understanding and kind of look at some of the bigger pictures in life. And then lastly, of course, our emotional self-care, how we're feeling at any given time. I saw some chat or something online too, someone saying they were in this meeting, probably a college professional, and just like people finally had a chance to just kind of cry a little bit, and just there's just so many unknowns and so much stress. It's okay to kind of break down a little bit, ask for help, get some compassion and kindness, and make sure that we're taking care of ourselves and others. Okay, and then also just really quickly, and Aaron's going to turn on the chat box in a minute for all of us if you haven't had a chance to do that. But of course, just looking at a variety of self-care options as far as physical activities and going for walks, and we've heard this over and over, less time on social media. In the chat box, maybe just real quickly, throw in a couple of ideas of what you're doing for self-care, how you manage your stress, both prior to this particular situation and certainly currently. I'm guessing that there are yogis out there, and there are runners and joggers and hikers and bikers and gardening and all the arts and crafts people out there and playing music or dance. I've seen some kind of funny dance parties that people are organizing. If you feel like just throwing something in the chat box as far as what you're personally doing as far as self-care and kind of stress management, it'd be fun to be able to kind of look and see if there are things that you're doing differently or that we can borrow. I know poetry, writing, and then for some people, just kind of actually being away, from the action, spending time alone can actually be certainly a strategy these days too. If you're in a kind of a busy household and so forth, taking a bath, picking flowers, doing whatever, but lots of reading and writing and meditation and all that good stuff. So I'm seeing some good stuff. We talked about some online classes that people are offering, fitness and things. So kind of keep throwing those ideas in there. We'll all be able to check. And then just a few more slides. Next one, Ann, for me. Okay, and then just a quick reminder, of course, that your diet is not only what you eat, it's what you watch, what you listen to, what you read, the people you hang around. Be mindful of the things you put into your body, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. I think that's just such a great kind of reminder too. And we've got our little zenned out worker there, and she's tuning a lot of this stuff out, just taking a few minutes out. And, just kind of one more reminder that despite everything else, for the vast majority of, I'm guessing, in this room, we are pretty privileged to still be able to stay warm at home, be able to read and work, still learn, create, talk to our loved ones, and care. So that gratitude piece is just paramount in my mind. Okay, and then I kind of thought, some of you might already be journaling, or this could be a good exercise for your kids that are home as well too. And just, it's okay to just kind of reflect a little bit over the past few weeks. What is the biggest thing that you miss about life before, and or what kind of lessons have you learned? What's the most important thing you've done for others? If we had more time and capability, we could also kind of put that in the chats. You're certainly welcome to if you feel like you want to, but something that you're proud of that you've accomplished during this time. And then, of course, moving forward, always a good chance, and I think this could even be better. We've seen some positive things worldwide, but what in your own life are you ready to change or let go of? Are there 3 things that moving forward that just you kind of are ready to kind of let go of? And then I do think it's just really important to kind of envision how the next several weeks are going to look, and what the eventual transition back to normalcy, whatever that might look like for the rest of the school year, if there is such a thing, and summer and so forth, just kind of reflecting a bit on that. So, all right, and then my final piece there, I just found out another good piece that was kind of coming around before I turn this back to Claire in a minute. Just, we're all doing the right things. We're on the front lines, we're answering questions, we're dealing with our own families and home situations, but also trying to serve students and colleagues and admin and teachers and all sorts of stuff. So just a really nice reminder that a shout out to all of you, all of us that we're on this together, as we've said before. And then my final piece, I'm going to steal this directly from Brian Coleman. Some of you might know who that is, out of Chicago at the Jones College Prep. And he was a school counselor of the year. And I have to admit, I'm not a Frozen 2. I have not seen it. I may have either just upped my credibility or lost a ton, but apparently there is a song called Do the Next Right Thing. I listened to it right before I came, but if you're familiar with that, oh yeah, and someone's even mentioning there's a podcast or whatnot, but the basic concept is, I may not be able to predict what's going to happen with enrollment or grades or AP exams and all that kind of stuff, but I would definitely say that I'm going to do my best to just figure out the next best question or the next right thing I can do. Comes back to that control. We don't have to solve every giant problem at this point, but just making little steps, day to day, email by email, person by person. So that was kind of a really inspiring, I heard him talk about that from the sense of Frozen. I heard some other people, someone just mentioned this is not necessarily, there might be another hashtag do the next right thing out there as well. But anyway, thank you for participating, maybe taking a little risk, maybe taking a little time out, and I'll turn it back over to Claire.
Thanks so much, David. That was really a treat to get to do the guided meditation and reflect on gratitude. What you're seeing on your screen right now is a resource list that we put together, and it's kind of overwhelming when it seems like daily, I'm finding resources, and I think there's so many good things out there, which I think is a sign of really indicating how much people want to connect and help each other cope during this difficult time. So you will be able to, following the webinar, you'll be receiving access to this, and you should be able to click on those and they should be able to work. And if not, you can search on Google using those terms. I wanted to just take a moment. We don't have a lot of Q&As, but Veronica asked me in the chat if the Zumba classes were open to all, because in my chat, I said that my Zumba teacher is teaching the class via Zoom. And yes, they are open to all. And where you're going to get information about that, it's called Twin Peaks Nutrition, which is located in North Bend, Washington. So if you go onto Facebook and go to Twin Peaks Nutrition, you'll see that there's a link in there that my teacher's name is Sharon. And there's a link, and the Zumba class is Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 9:15 to 10 o'clock. And I'm also testing out Jazzercise on demand as well. For those of you that know me, I've been a Jazzerciser for a long, long time. So it's great to see the variety of fitness things that we can do at home. And I just hope my neighbors are not looking in. So There was a question that came through in the chat, and this is what it says. How does someone help to motivate colleagues who have kids and say that they don't have the ability to work a full day? I'm gonna share my observations, and then I welcome any of the other panelists to weigh in on that as well. One of the things that I think is possibly going on is that this coworker is signaling that they're feeling overwhelmed. And so one of the things that I would do first is ask them about what kind of supports they have at home, because that's where we all are, and maybe talk with them about what they feel that they need help with. And then the other piece is having clear expectations of what it is that they need to be doing. I am in a situation where my children don't live at home anymore. And so I don't feel like I'm the best person, because it's like I totally can't relate to it, but I know that if I was in that position, I'd probably be pretty overwhelmed with having to keep the kids entertained and do my job. That's why I feel like it's really important to understand what supports they do have and maybe help them do some troubleshooting or problem solving with that. I'm wondering if there are any other panelists that would want to weigh in on that.
This is Courtney, and I'm going to just mention something because I have an amazing colleague who's the president of PNACAC, our Pennsylvania state ACAC, while being mother of 3. She's the one that I talked about putting a table in her bedroom so she could close the door. And for someone who is used to being so scheduled, she's given herself some compassion and saying, you know what, I need to go spend an hour outside with my kids running around. I need to do that as part of my daily schedule. She is also someone who, once the kids are asleep, will be back on email getting her work done, because she knows that she has a lot to do, not just at Gettysburg, but also at the state level. And as we know, things are changing. So I think the best way to help motivate a colleague is to really have that conversation and say, well, what will work for you? If you can't get a full day in between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m., can you take some time that's outside of that to make up that work? As long as they're getting the main tasks done and meeting deadlines, I think that is the most important thing. But our days can become a little bit more flexible, especially if they're working at a college or a university. I find most of the students that I'm in contact with contact me after 3 o'clock. At 5 o'clock, I get this deluge of emails from students because now they're ready to engage. So if that colleague can work a couple hours in the evening, that might be a nice shift.
Great. Thanks for that input, Courtney. There's some great pieces of information going through the chat box as well. So hopefully everybody's taken a look at those resources that are there. So thank you for asking that question, because that's a challenge, and being open and flexible, obviously is important for all of us. Could you move on to the next slide, please? Great, thanks, Anne. So this is, I think, the final slide, although there might be one right after this. I just want to thank you for taking the time out of your day to attend this session. It was good to be able to get together, even if it was virtual. It was really nice to click on the attendees list and see so many familiar names of friends and colleagues. That was really nice. I also want to thank Courtney and David and Aaron, and also Ann Nault, who was the designated slide clicker. Thank you so much for helping me with this and making it become what it was. I do want to bring everyone's attention to the screen. We will be having, even though we're not able to have the conference this year, we will be having a virtual membership meeting on May 21st. So that's the day that we normally would have our lunch and our membership meeting. So we'll be doing it virtually, but it's really important that you attend and encourage your colleagues to attend, because we have to have a quorum to be able to have a legitimate vote for our new slate of officers. And we're going to be doing a couple of critical bylaw changes, not anything really earth-shattering, but just related to the CEPP and some membership categories. We're going to be doing a more extensive bylaw change vote at our meeting in Minneapolis. And so you'll see that the NACAC conference is in Minneapolis in September, those dates. And NACAC is still kind of hedging on, whether that conference is going to occur. They haven't opened registration yet. I believe today I saw on the website it's supposed to open around April 21st, I believe. And then really exciting news, our 2021 conference will be held at Carroll College in Helena, Montana. And the dates are there. So what you didn't spend in your professional development budget to go to the conference in Vancouver, it would be marvelous if you could get permission to carry that over, so then you can attend the conference at Carroll. If you have any questions or comments or feedback or anything that you want to share with me regarding this webinar, regarding PNACAC, my email address is there, claire@collegeplanninghelp.com. So again, thank you so much for making the time to attend our happy hour. I hope you have a good weekend ahead, and please feel free to reach out if there's anything that I or the PNACAC Association can do to assist you during this incredible time that we're experiencing. And thanks again to David and Courtney and Aaron and Ann. Take care. Bye-bye.